everyone, and welcome to another episode of Extra Blue, powered by Gear West. I have had a great last few weeks visiting some friends in Vermont and attending two friends' weddings. I've really been working to incorporate more activities that Elena the person is really excited about. So even though that means it isn't always the absolute best plan for Elena the athlete, it is the plan that keeps me full of love and happiness. And that's exactly what keeps me training hard. So it's been great to be back in New England and really feels like fall here. But I am also excited to get back to the Midwest and back into my Team Berkey routine. This podcast is powered by Gear West, a specialty sports campus which has supported and inspired me for years. If you're near Minneapolis, their incredible 25,000 square foot store is just about 5 minutes west of Ridgedale and offers the largest Nordic selection in the country. And no matter where you are, their website is a fantastic resource for learning, motivation, and the gear. Everything you need to chase your goals in Nordic and alpine skiing, biking, running, and all kinds of cross training. Check out gearwest.com. I'm super grateful to have their support, and as a reminder, you can now watch these episodes on Gear West's YouTube channel. On this episode of Extra Blue, I welcome guest Luke Jager. Luke is from Anchorage, Alaska, where he grew up skiing for APU. From a young age, Luke stood out as a top American junior and solidified this notion in 2019 when he, Gus Schumacher, Ben Ogden, and Johnny Hagenbusch won the men's relay at World Junior Championships. This was an outstanding result at the time and still is an outstanding result looking back on it. And it really has set the bar for Team USA at these international junior competitions and honestly really inspired Team USA racing at the World Cup level as well. Luke went on to ski at the University of Utah, where he continued to balance racing at the NCAA and also international competitions. He attended his first World Cups, first World Championships, and the 2022 Winter Olympic Games. In this episode, we talk about some of these highs, and we also talk about how over those years, the progress has not always been linear. It's been both a blessing and a curse to have grown up with such a talented group of other guys. We talk about how it's hard not to compare yourself and your progress to those around you, and how Luke has worked to overcome some of those disappointing moments, and at the end of the day, kept the focus on his love for skiing. But we also acknowledge through both of our experiences how sometimes that's easier said than done. Luke and I go on to chat about what it means to no longer be on the U.S. national team, what that means for him this winter, and what his training has looked like this summer to prepare for the winter ahead. With that, I hope you enjoy this episode with Luke. Okay, I have Luke Jager on Extra Blue today. Luke, how was your time trial?
Oh gosh, it was good. It was hard. Yeah, it was good. You warned me about this the second you started recording. I was like immediately, yeah, my mind disappeared. But no, it was good. You know, uphill running is always hard, so
Oh,
nice to
it was
be
uphill running
reminded of
time
that.
trial.
Yep, yeah. There's like this kind of yeah, like iconic uphill run test that just everyone in Alaska has always done forever. So
Okay.
fun to get to do the same thing everyone has done for a long time and compare yourself and everything.
Can you tell us about it? Is it like a 10-minute effort, a 30-minute effort? How often do you do it? Is it like scrambly or is it just like straight up a road? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's like in the 10-ish range for men usually, and yeah, and for women as well, for really fast women also. So yeah, it's cool. It's like just on the like our local ski trails, the hillside trails, and you go backwards up, and then you end at like this parking lot that's like a trailhead for like getting into the mountains. So it's kind of like a pretty narrow dirt. It's like steep, flat, it's kind of stair steppy kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know, it's pretty classic uphill run. It's really, really hard, and you just
Nice.
yeah, kind of like maximum time to make it as hard as possible. So it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Was there a PR today?
I did PR. Yeah, I was stoked. I was
Oh,
stoked. I'm finally faster than I was when I was like 19 or 18 or something like that. So that was a win.
nice. That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
Have you been running a lot this summer?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say more. I mean, yeah, not a lot by like, running standards, but more than in the
First
past, which
year.
is which has been fun. Yeah, doing more like running races and stuff. So
Nice.
that's been fun.
That's
Yeah.
cool. So in a time trial, how often do you do a time trial like this, the uphill running?
We've done this one twice this year, and maybe we'll do it one more time.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah, I think that's pretty normal. Like 2 or 3 times throughout the year is kind of normal,
Yeah.
depending on what else is going on.
Do you feel like your mind, do you have a mind shift in time trials, like when you do it in June versus September versus maybe November? Like, do you approach them all the same, or are you like, okay, it's September, got to start locking it in. Here we go.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I try and do the same every time, but of
Yeah.
course you have like little other. Yeah, you're a little more worried or not worried, but a little more like thought, anxious feeling about it maybe as you get closer to the season. But yeah, it's like no matter what, it's like you're just trying to focus on having your best effort. So
Yeah.
hopefully, it's just like I guess the one thing is maybe as you get closer to the season, you're like a little sharper, so your like capacity to push is a little bit higher. So that changes the mental game a little bit because you have to like kind of consciously think about finding gears that maybe weren't really available in the past, sort of. But either way, it's just like you're kind of just doing your best, basically.
Nice. Cool. Well, how's the rest of summer training been up in Alaska?
Yeah, it's been good. Good. We had a good crew up for the meat of the summer, and then uh, yeah, some of like the college age homies left, and now we're left with pretty much just the year-round group. But yeah, it's been good. We have a really big, especially on the men's side, a lot of people, and the women's side
Yeah.
has grown a little bit too. So yeah, it's really fun. We got a super good group. Everyone is really sweet, and yeah, we're all friends, and it's fun. We got to go up to the Eagle, I guess, also too. Was the big story of the summer was getting to do that again. So that was fun. Get into that cycle of like going up there every 3 weeks and then coming down. It was cool.
Yeah. So how often, you said every 3 weeks. Does that mean have you gone up like 3 or 4 times this summer then?
Yeah, I did three. So we had yeah, there were three camps, one in June, one July, one in August, just like within our, we used a pretty classic like 4 week block type thing, and the third week of every block we just go up there, and we're lucky it's super slick because you can just like leave here at like 7 or something, leave Anchorage, and then you get to Girdwood at like 7:45, and then if the weather's good, you could be up, before 9 a.m., which is
Yeah.
pretty insane, and then you could ski that day.
Wow.
Um, yeah, we didn't always get that lucky with the weather. There was one day that we actually it never happened to me before. We went home at the end of the day. We waited all day and then went
Oh,
home because it was too rainy. But
oh shoot.
still, yeah, in terms of traveling to snow, that's not that bad still.
Yeah, pretty easy. That's like easier than sometimes people have to do in the wintertime.
Yeah, no,
But
totally, 100%.
can you explain to listeners who might not be familiar with the glacier, what it is, where it is, how you access it, and then like once you get up there, what is life like?
Yeah, so I don't want to butcher the history too much, but it was initially I think the like National Guard or military or something paid for a lot of the initial investment in it, and it's on this glacier which is just above Girdwood, which is kind of like our where like our ski resort is. It's like 45 minutes away from Anchorage, so it's yeah technically like I think maybe a part of the municipality, but it's its own separate thing, and yeah it's like 45 minutes away from Anchorage, and it's just situated on top of this ridge, which looks down into Eagle Glacier. Um, and yeah, initially they came in like in the 80s with these big things called sky cranes that I guess are these massive helicopters that they use for lifting stuff like that. And they dropped in this Connexy type building, and then it was outfitted. And well, I guess even before that, actually, there were people who were going up there and camping. And
Oh,
yeah, they were camping and they were just going, and I guess they must have had a sled up there because they were they're grooming a little bit of something, basically in the same spot we ski now. And yeah, that was like totally a lot of like very legendary Alaskan athletes like Bill Spencer, who in Alaska is better known probably for his Mount Marathon accomplishments, but it was an Olympic skier as well. Him and that whole era, they were up there totally roughing it, and yeah, very, very badass, just like out skiing on the glacier all day, and they go up to their tent and I don't know, hit like a jet boil or whatever for dinner, and then do that for like a week. And they were actually probably hiking up because that was how
Yeah.
everyone used to do it. And then they must have had some stuff like flown in. But then, anyways, then eventually this building got built. Specifics of which I feel bad that I don't know enough about that because I've definitely been told it a lot of times. But and then sometime in I don't know when. I would guess like early 2000s, APU took like stewardship over that facility that was put up there. And it was initially this like single building that was just a house basically, but it was like looked a lot like a big Connex, like a big shipping Connex sort of. It would, had like the same like framing and everything. And yeah, it was cool. It had, a kitchen in it, bunk rooms, showers, kind of toilets. They were a little bit of a gnarly situation. And that was like what everyone used forever, like Keegan's entire career and all of them. That's what in my early camps, that was what everyone used. And yeah, it was a great, yeah, not, it was definitely not a bad setup at all. It was really, really pretty plush, honestly. And we started flying in and out. I think I don't actually know. I think that everyone used to hike and it's a little bit of a pain. It was getting a little sketchy, I think, with like some of the
Mm,
changing mountain stuff.
yeah.
So I've only ever flown in and out, but then yeah, when you're up there, they have a
Wait, but
PV
when
up
you say
there, and
fly, it's a helicopter, right?
yeah, yeah, totally, yeah. So we work with Alpine Air Alaska, which is they have their little there's a small uh, airstrip, I guess. I wouldn't call it an airport, down at the bottom of the valley that we fly up. And yeah, they just have a few helicopters, and they, for a really long time, were super big supporters, and they still are. But yeah, they were super big supporters of the team, and um, yeah, we would work with them and fly up, and then stay up for a week, and then fly down. And while we were up there, they have sweet. Yeah, Flora goes and just grooms they do like wanding and everything to figure out where the crevasses are and where stuff's moving, and they do a really good job like mapping everything so it's safe. And then yeah, they can groom within the courses look the same for a while, more or less, but it was initially, I think, built off of the profile of, I don't know, some championship course or something, is what I
Mm,
heard. Maybe Sochi or something like that. So it's a pretty like burly course up there.
yeah.
And then you get to hit that twice a day and then, yeah, go make lunch. And we're divided into like cooking and cleaning groups. So you're really in like group camp living and you get really tight with all your teammates, which is fun. But yeah, I guess the big story is in 2018, Anchorage had this like, or not Anchorage, all of Alaska had this historic earthquake that was like 8 point something, like one of the biggest earthquakes ever recorded or something like that. And there was like, um, yeah, like roads were like ripped in half and stuff like that. And I guess during that, the foundation of the building was damaged. Um, so we were no longer using that from 2019. The 2019 was the last year we used it until now. So it was
Okay.
this big whole project of getting money and everything. And yeah, this last year it's been like definitely our coach Eric Flora. It's been his love child, or I don't know what you would love. I don't know. Yeah, passion project
Passion
maybe is the
project,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, is the right thing to call it. But that it's consumed a lot of energy and a lot of time. And finally this year it's back up, and there's this insane, beautiful new facility up there, and yeah, it's all state of the art, nice toilets is a really nice thing. Showers,
Nice.
bunking. Yeah, so I mean, like, it's definitely super surreal, and you're up there and just like get used to it, and then you kind of are like, this is freaking insane. Like, and
Yeah.
of course, it's surrounded in just like unbelievable, spectacular views, and yeah, it's definitely a special place.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. I've heard a lot of great stories about it, and I feel like For there were a few years there where I knew that the glacier was kind of shut down or they were rebuilding things. And I felt like every winter and spring skiers from Alaska were like, the glacier's gonna happen again this
Yeah,
year. Like we're
totally.
bringing it back. And it was
Yeah.
that was the narrative for like 3 years. And I was like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it. But now I see it and I'm like, okay, it looks pretty sweet. It seems like an awesome resource to have.
Yeah, no, definitely it is. And I mean, yeah, we definitely had a few false alarms of like, okay, we're going up this summer, and then like something would happen
Yeah.
inevitably, and we couldn't. But it definitely is, and we kind of convinced ourselves like the years we didn't have it, like, oh, this doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
But then like when you're up there, you're like, I was this summer anyways. I was just like, man, this is pretty freaking good training. Like this is really
Yeah.
hard to beat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool to be back up there and just get to see like the fruits of all of Eric's labor, and
Hmm.
how in his element and fired up he was to be there, and just yeah, the team dynamic of it, and of course just like yeah, getting to be somewhere where you're just really just in awe of your surroundings is pretty cool. They and yeah, I mean like whenever I like am talking to people who aren't skiers or like my some of my like relatives and I'm like describing it, I'm just like, what am I even saying? This is insane. Like I definitely never want to like take for granted how nuts it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's super cool. Well, I have to imagine, well, it sounds like it's absolutely stunning and beautiful, and that when things are nice and the weather cooperates, it's a lovely time. How often does the weather not cooperate?
Yeah, definitely famously, it often does not cooperate. We got really lucky that our first camp was like the best I'd ever seen. Like it was so gorgeous every day, sunny. The skiing was like firm and setting up well. And then that definitely was a tough one to have as the first one because
Yeah.
everyone's like expectations were pretty through the roof. And then in July we had like the national team came up and it was just horrible. I mean, it wasn't actually that bad, but like the visibility was really bad. Like I think a
Yeah.
lot of a lot of people left the glacier having no idea what the surrounding area looked like at all because you
Oh,
were
sure.
basically inside a ping pong ball the entire time, and it was like so soft, and we got rained on a little bit, but that's kind of fun in its own way too because it's the trail is like wanded, so there's these like orange like safety wands every like I don't know, like 5 or 10 meters or something like
Hmm.
that, or yeah, 10 meters probably. So when it's really socked in, you just like you're just looking for the next wand, sort
Yeah.
of. Like and sometimes if it's really socked in, like you can't even see the next wand, and then you're supposed to just like stand still and just wait for it to pass.
Oh,
But
geez.
there's something sort of like almost like meditative about that like zone where there could be people like right in front of you and right behind you and you don't even know, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just going, it's just me and the little bit of snow right in front of me, and yeah, that's kind of cool too. It's definitely wears on you a little bit, like psychologically. And then when the sky opens up, you're just like, oh my God, it's like so cathartic. But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's just kind of a different kind of beast when it's like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, what do you guys get up to then when you are up on the glacier, but not necessarily training during those in-between hours?
Yeah, that I mean the big thing is that the chores kind of take a lot of time.
Okay.
The old building lasted a really really long time, and a lot of it was because people yeah, the people who had used it took really good care of it. So that was always like a tradition that was very important to the team, and that was really instilled into us, the importance of that. So yeah, it sounds like it would kind of suck, but it really doesn't. Like you get put in a pretty random group of like four other people probably, and a lot of times it's fun because it's usually, odds are good it's not like the two or three people you spend most of your time with in
Yeah.
life. So it's like people that but maybe not like super super well, and then every day there's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then like two or three cleaning tasks. So
Mm.
every day a group is doing something, and then maybe has something else they have to do. And yeah, it is like it's pretty time consuming, like cooking dinner for that many people
Yeah.
or meals or whatever. But it is a really nice routine you just fall into, and yeah, that's definitely a lot of time. And then also there's a pretty funny little like library up there of like
Oh,
stuff that's been up there for a long time, or that people have uh brought up maybe more recently, and people bring their own books obviously, but so there's some pretty weird books up there that are
yeah.
sometimes kind of fun to dive into. But like yeah, totally. Like in this last camp, day one, I just like picked up this book written by Steve House, this like famous alpinist, and you don't really know that much about alpinism or whatever, but I was just like, all right, I'm just reading this camp, and I was just totally enthralled, and all my downtime was reading that. And yeah, you definitely just like it feels pretty good to unplug from, the whatever uh internet kind of
Yeah.
like anxiety provoking world that we all kind of spend most of our time in. So it definitely is
'Cause
like
there's no Wi-Fi or cell service, like you're
there
totally
actually
kind of off the grid.
there used to be none, and now they have a cell booster up there, which I guess is like a little thing that just boosts your cell signal. So it's actually a pretty good service up
Oh, nice.
there. But thankfully, yeah, the vibe is kind of such that there's not people aren't doing too much of that,
Yeah.
which I mean, it was nice because like the tour was going on in July, so we were watching like the tour, which
Yeah.
was
Nice.
cool. Like we'd come in from training and watch the tour, and then it was kind of like unplugged for a little while.
Yeah. That's fun. So in terms of the training that you have been up to this summer, has there been any like new training aspect? Obviously, you're kind of incorporating more snow time on the glacier, and it sounds like maybe you've been running a little bit more than usual, but I'm curious if there are new workouts that you're implementing, or if you and JC have been just like texting back and forth about different technique ideas that you seem to obsess over, or maybe you're looking at video or sending things to each other.
Yeah,
What's kind of been the trend
definitely
lately?
that. I mean, yeah, definitely. He and I always have that going on for sure. That's definitely inevitable. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, not to under sell the stimulus difference in having 3 weeks on the glacier definitely is yeah is notable for sure, and it is at altitude. Like the high point of the course is at like 5,400 feet or
Oh,
something like that. So it's like decent, especially when you're coming up from yeah. I mean, my house is like 200 feet or something like that. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely that, and just leaning pretty heavily into that. And I also have had a bit of a project of sort of just like general um like capacity, max oxygen uptake lifting. Because I kind of have just had this like, yeah, just realization like in a few years of not really seeing a lot of yeah, on paper improvement in results of just being like I'm just missing that yeah, that top level of yeah, like VO2 basically, I guess like
Yeah.
just so early in races, on the World Cup, I'm just like, dude, I'm cooked, because
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole thing about cross country skiing is the non-steady state nature of the sport. You just reach such high percentages of VO2 max even pretty early in race sometimes, and then it's like, yeah, if that's too much, then it doesn't really matter how good your threshold or whatever speed
Yeah.
is if you're just like popped. So that's definitely been a big project of mine. And running has been a pretty good way to do that because it's so easy to get into the central system and really get into your heart and get your respiration rate super high with running. Um,
Hmm.
so that's been cool to especially, and it's been fun because yeah, in Alaska, like the whole like mountain running scene is like a fun thing, and getting to get back into that, which I did a lot when I was little, has been pretty fun. And yeah, kind of as the season's moving now, we're getting a little more specific now. Now more of my intensity is becoming um, yeah, a little more specific, but it was fun for a little while to be like, okay, I'm just I'm just doing a lot of L4. I did a couple like
Okay.
blocks, and yeah, I've never really done that. My training composition is, or yeah, has the intensity has largely been, what I guess you would consider what is today a pretty traditional skiing model of the summer months are predominantly threshold,
Yeah.
predominantly, this base building, which I think is really, I mean, there's good reason that that is the norm, but my thought was kind of like, well, if a lot of these dudes that I'm trying to compete with, their, threshold or whatever you want to call it, because threshold's a bit of a tricky thing to really get into the weeds about, but
Yeah.
if their sustainable level that they're hitting is they're at 84, milliliters per kg of oxygen uptake, and I can't even get there at max, then it's
Yeah.
kind of like I'm sort of like, okay, which I don't know. I've never, that's not, those are made up numbers, but like
Yeah.
then my thought was like, all right, I think maybe my efforts are not best spent in like trying to increase like how close to the ceiling I can sustain when the ceiling just isn't high enough, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see, we'll see. It's always a gamble.
Are those ideas that you have come up with on your own, or have you collaborated with Eric Flora, your coach, or were they his ideas? How did those kind of come to life?
Yeah, definitely. It was a collaborative thing for sure. I mean, a lot of it is like it's good having him too because I like probably a lot of athletes. I'm pretty prone to like getting an idea in my head and then being like, this is what I need to do. And he's
Yeah,
always kind of like, all right, let's pump the brakes a little bit and just like think about this. But we both kind of agreed like, yeah, I think the capacity needs to come up. And
yeah,
yeah, just like I'm a big believer in like you kind of like just look to your experience in races to figure out kind of what you need to do. And for me,
mhm,
that was like, dude, it just gets hard so early. Like,
mhm.
and these, like, I remember racing in like Falloon, in some mass start and just getting absolutely shelled, of course. And I like going up Murderbach in the first lap. I was like, I mean, I'm on my limit right now. It
Yeah,
doesn't really matter like what's going to happen the rest of the race because I'm done right now already. So that was definitely, I was kind of like, all right, like endurance, fractional utilization, stuff like that is for sure a huge, important component of the sport, but like I don't think I've like earned the right to really spend a lot of time focusing on that yet or right now because I need to get to the level where I am even at a level that's worth sustaining basically.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
fair. Okay. Can you give an example of maybe, aside from like running races or something, can you give an example of a workout that you've done specifically with that intention?
Yeah, I mean honestly almost all of them have been 5 by 5 minutes zone
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
And the traditional like Helgerud Norwegian method or whatever is or like I guess now the Norwegian method is something else sort of. But back in the day, there was a lot of research by this guy. Um, his name I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Helgerud, and it was 4 by 4. 4 by 4 zone 4 was like the classic VO2 max building session, and yeah, I think that I don't know if there's any magic that I found in particular in the 4 by 4 itself, but just that like you're spending a pretty good amount of time at this high percentage of of your heart rate max and of your breathing, your respiration max. And um, yeah, I moved more to like 5 by 5 because I was just like I found that the long adding that extra minute, I was just like my heart rate was continuing to creep up, and that was kind of what I
Hmm.
wanted was for that to happen. So by having a little more time, then it was allowing it to come up a little higher, and yeah, I don't think that that's the magic number or whatever. I don't think that even you need to be doing it in an interval format. You could just be just going out and going really hard randomly.
Yeah.
But the whole point, yeah, basically is that I've been focusing on is increasing your cardiac output, the stroke volume, how much is going out into your into your working muscles as opposed to maybe something like threshold and base training, which trains that of course, but not as heavily, and then you're focusing a little bit more on how well can my muscles process this, the mitochondria, stuff like that, that is like
Hmm.
sustaining that effort, sort of sustaining the output of the oxygen that you're getting from the central system. So, and yeah, mostly mostly 5 by 5.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about that because I feel like it's very similar to something that, or kind of a shift that I made in some of my training just over a year ago. Also, kind of when I joined Team Berkey, I really wanted to figure out like what is my physiology, how does it compare to others, so I'm not just kind of following this copy and paste training plan, but it's really
Yep.
specific to kind of where my weaknesses are. And I feel like it was very similar in that like I could hold a sustained effort for quite a long time, but then as soon as I started to try to like reach my ceiling, like there was very little wiggle room. And
Yeah.
I would soon just like kind of blow up and be at my max, and I'm like I can't go anywhere else. And so we've been trying to also kind of raise that ceiling a little bit and kind of make it so that there is a little more wiggle room. And so yeah, it's interesting to hear you kind of talk about your perspective on it, and also some of the workouts, 5 by 5s, 4 by 4s, they're classic, VO2 building for skiers. Another one that I've been really enjoying lately is I do these mixed intervals where I intentionally start off in L3 and then shift into L4, like maybe with the last 2 or 3 minutes of the interval or something. And
Mhm.
it's been a really fun way to incorporate more L4 and like push that ceiling each time, but then it's not quite as taxing as like a 5 by 5 session. So you can maybe do more of it, or you can do another session later on without feeling totally wiped. But um, those are fun just to kind of, yeah, it's fun to chat about in terms of what other skiers are up to in the summertime.
Yeah, that's cool. And it seems like, maybe since making that change, it seems like you had a jump in in performance. So, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I
hope
don't
so.
know. That's that is cool, that like yeah, training works.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's good to try
Usually not
different
as well
things.
as we want it to, but
I know, yeah. Well,
yeah,
there are so many different ways that you can go about training, and every individual is going to respond differently. And so, um, yeah, I think it's important to try different things, figure out what works for you, and not necessarily just follow along because what works for someone else might not work for you. So it's good to
yeah,
kind of advocate for yourself and figure out, okay, well, what can I do differently, or what do I want to focus on this year? But also nice to have
totally,
a coach there who's like, all right, let's like slow down and be more, methodical about this and strategic. So I'm sure Flora's doing a
totally.
great job of guiding you.
Yeah, totally. And it's just like it's kind of one of the, many bummers about this the yeah, how deeply social media and everything has embedded itself into our lives because you just see what people are doing
Yeah.
and you see someone fast doing fast person does whatever 90 minutes threshold whatever
Yeah.
you're like damn I should be doing that but what you don't see is like the incredible amount of context that you're lacking behind that
Yeah.
what did the first 5 years of their training from ages 15 to 20 look like what is their whatever all this other stuff and it's like you just get these little windows and you're just like yeah it's really easy to go buck wild with that and that's a little bit like
Yeah.
of a dangerous game for sure.
Yeah. It is for sure. But that's why we have coaches to hold us
Totally.
accountable to what
Yeah,
makes
coaches
sense.
who are have been around for a while and seen a lot of trends come and go, so that's
Yeah.
definitely good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of your experiences throughout your career. And I want to talk about some of the highs and the lows. And we'll kind of talk about like how you handle both of those as they ebb and flow in throughout your career so far. So if you had to pick out like a highlight of your career or maybe a few key moments throughout your career where you were just like, that was amazing, whether it was a result or an experience or just a day on the glacier that like will always be with you. Like everything seemed to click that day. Can you share, one, two, maybe three of those experiences?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess it's hard to not think about like some of our junior like relay days,
Yeah. I mean,
or
that's
World
fair.
Juniors. Yeah, totally. I mean, those were definitely like super fun getting to have these sweet results with like some of my best friends and in some cases kind of like exceed levels that I maybe thought I was capable of skiing at the time and that was cool. That was always definitely like emotionally a high for sure. Um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like lately I'm a little more like stoked on some of the like more like like personal kind of like mindset feeling accomplishments of just like I feel like I even had some like running races this summer where I was just like regardless of the result, like they were good results or whatever, but I was just like super stoked to just feel like, oh, I just felt so like present and really, yeah, like my mind was like in a good place doing that. And
Yeah.
because I feel like I've had a lot of races where it's just like you're out there and yeah, you're just not focused. I'm just not focused on the on the good stuff I should be focused on. So to have like the feeling of like, oh, I had some agency and some control over like where my attention was and stuff like that that definitely is pretty. I think a mediocre objective performance where I had that feeling of control and yeah awareness and just being present. Now I'm way more fired up on than like what maybe on paper was is a better performance, but felt
Yeah.
just like kind of mayhem. And yeah, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say in the last like few months this summer, I've had some of like the more like fulfilling feeling, just like efforts of doing stuff like that, just because yeah, just took all that other crap out of the way, sort of.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that maybe comes with like the maturity of an athlete, and that obviously there have been times where we've had some unfortunate races or things haven't gone our way, and we've had to then reflect on like, well, why did that happen? I felt fit or I felt prepared for this race, and things really did not click, and it wasn't the skis, it wasn't, something was off, and oftentimes I think when like the common denominator then is the mental or the mindset, and I feel like that's such a huge shift then to figure out like I don't know, it's almost like when you're a junior racer and in through college, you're just kind of like go, 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 go,
You're
go,
just
right?
going. Yeah, totally.
You don't even think about it. And like you're just gaining fitness so rapidly because you're still relatively underdeveloped as an athlete. So doing anything is probably going to help you as long as you don't get overtrained and too tired. And so then you kind of see this progress, you see this progress. And I feel like one thing that I told myself when I started, skiing professionally was like, well, I'm going to keep doing this until as long as I keep improving, right? And if I keep seeing progress, then it means like I'm doing the right thing. But in reality, you don't always improve. You don't, it's like progress is not linear. And it's really hard to kind of face that then because even if I wasn't improving, I wasn't ready to give up certain goals. And there were things that I felt like I could have done differently to maybe shift, but it's really hard to prepare for an entire season. And when you do that and it doesn't go as you hoped or expected, and on paper, you're like, wow, I actually took a step back and, I didn't have great results or things didn't click for me here, or I got really sick all the time. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this was not progress. That doesn't mean it has to be over. And I feel like that's something that I've kind of come to realization with a few more years of experience at my old age, that like it's it's okay to not have progress be linear, and it doesn't mean that things have to be over. But then what I did also, I think a huge part of last year was I had this really big mental shift, and I kind of wanted to rewire some of my mindset going into a training block, going into the racing season, going into even deciding like, oh, am I going to go to this training camp, or am I going to go to my really close friend's wedding? And it's like, well, like those things both matter a lot to me. And I'm going to try to figure out a way to be at the wedding and not give up on training. I'm just going to rework my training so that it kind of fits around the wedding. And those aspects of like life that I've been able to kind of implement back into my day to day, I feel like have helped me create this shift in mindset so that when I show up on the starting line, I'm a lot happier and I'm ready to be focused on the race. And even when we're going up Murderbakken in Falloon and it hurts like lap one, it's like, that's okay. I'm ready to embrace that. And I've like prepared myself for this. And um, I just feel like it's really important to kind of have that realization. And I don't know, I guess I just babbled on for a long time.
No, I
Very,
totally that's awesome. I totally agree. Like I totally agree, and I think that's kind of like the beautiful thing about having some challenging results is like, I was thinking like if things had always gone the way I never thought they were going to go when I was like 16 or whatever, that I never, and same for you. I'm sure like you never would have been challenged to have to come up with shift that mindset and probably would have been stuck in, yeah, maybe not the best mindset, and that
yeah,
definitely finds its way into other corners of your life too. And yeah, I mean it's like the classic like failure is just an opportunity to learn, really.
yeah,
And like actually hearing that and rolling your eyes about it or whatever when you're younger is one thing, but then actually like thinking about what that means and embracing it is that's definitely, yeah, that's a sweet place to be at for sure.
yeah. Well, and it's one thing to kind of like hear about it when you're young, and then it's another thing to live through it and experience it and then kind of
Yeah,
overcome it. So
totally.
I guess I'm curious, like if you have specific examples in your career where you feel like you have maybe fallen short of your goals, and some that you're willing to share, and how you got through that.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like when I think about it, it felt like it a little bit kind of happened just in slow motion, like over a few years, sort of, because um, in my head, and I was kind of like just totally thought, it was like me and all these other dudes who were the same age as me, and we were all super good friends and all training pretty much the same, and had like the success in the World Juniors, and um, yeah, it just felt like it was like meant to be that we were gonna all be like the next big thing or whatever. And then just for whatever reason, year to year, it was like those other guys kind of were becoming the next big thing. and we're going on and having these crazy results and getting on the podium at World Cups, or even before then, it was like, whoa, they got on the podium at US Nationals, that was so crazy, and whoa, they qualified for heats, that was so crazy, or whatever. And then it got to the point where they were like, I mean, winning World Cups, and I was like, damn. And it was so sick, for those guys. And then I was kind of just like, man, what happened? I kind of thought I was one of these guys, and it wasn't. I just wasn't seeing the improvement. Um, yeah, to getting to that level. And I think like that was the challenge. The mistake I made was just like clinging so hard onto like trying to be something in my head, instead of like focusing on getting better, which is what those guys were doing. I mean, they were all so good at yeah, just like the process and locking in and understanding the components of success. And I was kind of just like trying to see like, okay, well, what's Gus doing? What's JC doing? What's Ben doing? And I was like just trying
Mm,
to like grab little pieces of what they were doing instead of just being like, dude, like what do you need to do? So I honestly feel like I kind of got lucky that the discrepancy became so big between us that I was able to just kind of like let go. Because
mm,
if I'd been like kind of, I feel like if I'd like strung myself along a little bit longer, if I'd been like cracking maybe a little bit better results, then I maybe would have like kept on grasping. But I just kind of hit the point where I was just like, man, like this isn't working, like what you're doing. It's not fun either. Like it's just miserable. And like I remember getting to the point one season where I was just like, dang, like when I mean, this might have even been the last season. I can't remember. I remember I was like talking to a sports psych or someone, and I was just like, man, it's just crazy. When I think about skiing, I just think about just being disappointed. Like that's just like that's like
mm.
my emotional like feeling about skiing. And I was like, why? That's so dumb. Like why would
Yeah.
I feel that way? It's because I totally just like created this like failure, like all or nothing. No nuance to it at all. Success or failure, and if you're not on this side of this line, you suck, and whatever. And yeah, so totally, that was definitely a mistake, and I wish yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. There's no point in wishing anything, but like, I definitely like am glad that I was able to kind of figure out a better way to think about things, because it was definitely just like, I was doing like the coolest thing in the world. I was so lucky. Was having my travel paid for to like go with like all my best friends and my girlfriend and travel around the world and like do the sport that I loved. And it was like not that fun feeling. And I was like, oh man, that means you're doing something wrong if that's not that fun. So, um, yeah, totally. I feel lucky to have had that happen, because I was able to figure out that that wasn't working and find a way to totally shift my mindset. So it is really fun.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's um easier said than done to have that mental shift. And also, uh, I think it's easier than one would think to have that association with a feeling like disappointment. And you said, when you think of skiing, you think of disappointment. And it's like, well, on one hand, that sounds really sad and awful, right? On the other hand, like it's what you were experiencing, and you had experienced it on more than one occasion. And when you start to have that type of repetitive association, then it makes sense to kind of put those two and two together there. But it sounds like you were really smart in that you were like, wait a second, that's not right. That's not where I want to be. And I'm going to, work with a sports psych to figure out like where do I want to be, or what do I want my mindset to be when I think of ski racing? And you were able to kind of make that shift. So I feel like in a way, um, it almost like, I don't want to say it requires having that disappointment um, in order to find that like sense of freedom almost with skiing. But I do think that you can kind of value that sense of freedom more when you've gone through something like that.
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I definitely agree. Like, just because it's a prison of your own making doesn't really mean that it's necessarily that much easier to get out of it. I mean, anyone, yeah, anyone in the world who's ever struggled with anything will tell you that. And I, of course, under, can't oversell just the importance of just like, I got so lucky I just have just the sweetest people that have always been, surrounding me. And like, that definitely, like I'm lucky that, little things like my parents are always just like, oh, whatever, as long as you're having fun, like totally, like don't I don't really give a shit about like what place I'm getting or whatever. And my girlfriend and all my friends are just like, yeah, totally. And even these guys who, um, yeah, these guys who were my peers that were having these huge gaps, they were never like that. They never gave up. They were always like, oh, dude, you just got to do this, you got to do this, and totally were like, totally believed in my ability and stuff. And that, yeah, I mean that like definitely you need people. I mean, you can do it no matter what. You can have a good mindset no matter what. I believe that, but like it
Yeah.
definitely is easier when you got good people around you. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, it's kind of like part of the ski culture, I feel like, to just be forever supportive. And we are at the end of the day competitors with each other, but we're also friends. And you talk about like this group of guys who you basically grew up with, even though you were coming from all pockets of the country, you still, I feel like, grew up together. And I feel like that have had experiences that are probably going to bond you together for the rest of your lives, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
totally, totally.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I really appreciate it. And I know it takes um, some vulnerability to share things like that. But I'm curious then, like in reflecting of last year, specifically, you started the season on the Super Tour, you went to US Nationals and you were racing really well. You had quite a few podiums. You were like crushing these qualifiers domestically. And then you came over to to Europe, like right after New Year's, after US Nationals, and you joined the US ski team training camp in Livigno, Italy, and you're kind of getting ready to do period 3 of the World Cup. And I'm curious, like, what was your mindset at that point, going from Super Tours and US Nationals and coming off of some podiums and then shifting onto the World Cup? How do you make that shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was, trying to have like sort of the mindset that I've been talking about of just like, oh, I'm just gonna do my best and really focus on the stuff I can control or whatever. But it's kind of like the classic, I can't remember, like Mike Tyson or someone said like, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face or whatever. And it definitely is like you have like, for me anyways, when I think about like the World Cup, I have so much history of just like emotional turmoil maybe and challenge with executing that it's sort of like it's pretty hard to not just slot back into your old habits a little bit.
Mm.
So I mean, and to be honest, the other very important thing is like the as someone who's gone back and forth between the Super Tour and World Cup a lot, the World Cup's a lot harder than the Super Tour, and that is just part of it. At the end of the day, like at the end of the day, it's like it's hard because you can do really, really well and be in really good shape, be crushing U.S. nationals, whatever, and there's just so many fast skiers in the World Cup, and that I mean, as it should be, it's the World Cup, but that definitely like, yeah, that's always a piece that I like have to remind myself to like not sleep on, that it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot harder. So I don't know. I mean, I was definitely like just yeah, trying to focus on the right stuff and um but then it's hard. It just kind of starts snowballing and yeah, you can kind of like start spiraling a little bit about like I suck, I whatever, I'm so whatever, all that classic negative self-talk stuff. So it's a process. Like it's really easy to sit here and make it sound like I've like figured everything out, but um yeah, it's really an ongoing thing that you have to like continue
Yeah.
to try and improve at because the more challenging the circumstances are, the more challenging it is to have the right mindset, and like I said, like I sometimes get stoked that I like have, you know, feel like I've like made progress or whatever in the way I approach sport and other stuff in life, but then I remind myself, I'm like, yeah, man, but things haven't been that hard for you in life, honestly. Like I've been really lucky. I've had a pretty awesome, relative to a lot of people in the world, very easy life. So it's important to remember, like you should never like settle, kind of, always
Yeah.
strive to be better, and like that's yeah, totally. So anyways, the mindset was try to not get clapped, and I clapped pretty bad a couple times, and I actually had one pretty good one in France, which was sweet, and I was like, oh okay, and that was cool. I was like, all right, that was a little bit of a breakthrough, and then got beat down a little bit more after that. Kind of just
Oh.
kept coming, but um, yeah, it was all good.
Well, I feel like, as you said, the margin of error on the World Cup is just like so, so small. Where on the Super Tour, you could maybe like go around a corner and you're like, oh, that was like, decent, but not that great. And you still qualify like, in the top five. And
Yeah,
that's if like
totally.
you had like a pretty major mistake. But on the World Cup, it's like, oh, no, you're like bottom five.
Yeah, totally. Which
And
is like,
so,
it almost like makes it easier to be a little bit easier on yourself then, because you're just like, oh, I probably don't suck. It's like I just, a lot of little things happened, whatever,
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I don't know. I guess there are some people who like really challenge that because they pretty much never seem to have anything, and you're like,
yeah,
maybe it is actually all that skill. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. I'm still trying to figure that part out. But
Yeah, totally.
But I will say, I feel like something that I really admired in being in proximity with you last season, you came over, you had some good results. You also had some results I think that maybe you were hoping for more of.
Nice
But
way to put it.
ultimately,
Yeah.
ultimately you qualified for World Championships and you were named to the team. And you were kind of in this position where you really didn't know if you had starts for any of the races at World Championships. You were also considering maybe flying back to the US to race the Berkey because, the
That's
Berkey's a
right.
pretty nice payday. And
Yeah.
also, I believe maybe Novi, your girlfriend, was going to be there. And so, it's nice to just kind of when you're in that state, it's like, maybe I need to go home and just like and maybe it's not even home, like to Alaska, but even back to the US, it makes a big difference. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Big time.
I guess can you walk us through like that scenario that you were in and how you kind of went through the process of deciding to stay in Trondheim for World Championships ultimately?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had a lot of urges to just like kind of pull the ripcord and just like, all right, let's go back to wherever. Um, I definitely, a lot of it was I was pretty like, I needed some good results to stay on the national team, um, which ultimately ended up not panning out, obviously. But I made the decision that I was like, oh, I think it would be really unwise to and just kind of stupid to um, have to make a decision that would probably have such huge financial consequences for myself in terms of like funding in the future to not try and stay and like, yeah, just to stay and just keep trying, which like, yeah, looking back on it, part of it was kind of like, oh, if I'm here, I can say I'm trying because I think my heart wasn't super in it maybe still, but it was, yeah, I am proud that I like, you know, was getting pretty, I don't know, yeah, was not having the best races ever. I was like, I'm gonna keep trying still. Like, and I
Hmm.
kept on kind of being like, oh, dude, I think maybe I feel really bad. Maybe I just shouldn't race. I kept on kind of looking for those little things. And then I'd be like, oh, fuck, no, you're fine. You just don't want to get beaten. Just go do it. And like, yeah, that was a good experience to be like, don't feel so bad for yourself and just keep trying, totally. So I don't know. There's always like opportunity to, yeah, to get better at something and all those
Yeah.
things.
Well, I think what I was getting at ultimately then was like the positivity and the support that you brought to that entire championship week. And, I didn't even realize that you didn't have a start. I just like, it's not always talked about, especially men versus women. Like we don't necessarily always know like who has a start, who's an alternate for what. And sometimes it's changing throughout the week, especially in a championship week. And so I didn't even realize that you were there without a start until like pretty much halfway through the week, I think. And um, I couldn't tell, right? Because you had this type of energy where you were going to support everyone who was there. You were still going to do workouts as if you were going to race because you never know. And you were going to keep putting in the work and going for those afternoon runs, doing the extra strength workouts, and like encouraging your teammates and also encouraging yourself to keep on pushing through. And I just really admired the way that you were so persistent with it and so positive with it too, and positive with yourself and also positive with those around you. And at the end of the day, you did end up getting to race at World Championships. You did get to race in
Yeah,
the 50K.
technically, I guess, yeah. Went for a little, yeah, totally. No thanks, that's really sweet to say. Yeah, I mean, it was, um, yeah, I don't know. It's easy when everyone is super nice, like to not really have like a vendetta or whatever against anyone. And I definitely believe like the best thing you can do for yourself is like, yeah, try and be positive for other people because it just kind of makes you feel good. And yeah, negativity is a pretty
Yeah.
vicious cycle, and you just don't want to. Yeah, you want to stay away from that as much as you can for sure. And I always like to think people say it's like, all right, if you can't be the best like skier or the best result, have the best result that day, then you got to try and be the best teammate you can be. You know, like be the best at
Yeah.
something, like or be your best at something, sort of. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was probably moping a little more than you said, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's like it's easy to yeah. It's nice when you like have these things in your head that you want to do. You know, like you say, like I really want to be positive. I really want to whatever, whatever. If you set them enough times in your head and you kind of just autopilot do them, even when it's not that
Yeah.
easy, which is kind of nice because it's a good reminder. I mean, it's like if you tell yourself, oh, when it gets hard in a race, I'm going to stay present and keep pushing enough times, then you find that you kind of are doing it even when you're not
Yeah.
consciously trying to do it. So like, yeah, I don't know. I heard this thing once. Some guy said there's like your mind is like a garage or something because it just becomes whatever you store in it, you know.
Oh, that's
And
cool. I kind of
that's kind of
like
nice. I like that because I'm like, all right, that means every time when times are easy or bad, you're putting something in there, you know.
that.
And you wanna, it's worth trying to make sure that's something good because that's gonna help you when, yeah, when the environment outside maybe isn't as friendly.
Yeah, well, and you say that it's easy when the people around you are so great and so nice, but at the end of the day, it's also not easy. Like I'll acknowledge that being in that position, I've been in positions like that previously, and it's like that's not easy to show up with a smile on your face, to encourage your teammates, to give them the shout out, to um, you know, put one foot in front of the other. It's not always easy when you're in that position. And so I guess I just like want to give you credit where credit is due in that like you did show up as an amazing teammate throughout that entire week. And you're allowed to mope also. And the fact that you did your moping behind closed doors and I never saw it is very, mature and also yeah, just like goes to show the great teammate qualities that you have. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
thanks, that's sweet.
Yeah. Well, how did the 50K race go at World Champs?
Oh my God, I think thankfully I've like maybe like trauma response like blocked enough of it out that I don't really remember, but I just remember being like, dude, in the first like minute and a half, being like, oh my God, this is gonna be such a mental, like just such a mental challenge. And in hindsight, I wish I'd been like, oh dude, so cool. You're gonna get to do just like the hardest thing you could possibly do right now. What a good challenge. But I was not there at all. That was not what I was thinking. But it was cool because, it was an insane atmosphere, obviously.
Yeah.
It was like I've never seen anything, I've never gotten to experience anything like that. Maybe never will again. So I'm really
Yeah.
stoked that I got to be a part of it. And like I saw like some of my like college teammates and friends like in the crowd and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
there was a bunch of like, yeah, people from Alaska that were there. And they were all like boozing on the side of the trail, which was pretty fun. And I don't know, it's hard to be that. It's hard to like be that bummed about it when there's like people like like hanging bottles over the fence trying to get you to like drink them and stuff. Which like, yeah, totally. I was that. It was just like it was really hard for sure. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was such a cool experience though. And it was what the craziest part was. I was like, man, that was like the hardest a ski race probably could have been. And then the next day, the women's race, I would literally remember having the thought like, damn, I would think like if I had like perfect control, I could not have designed a harder, worse condition than this. And then the next day, yeah, it was the universe laughed at that thought, I guess, and made the women to go through the actual most heinous thing that I could have imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what type of awful, I guess, star alignment happened on the day of the women's 50K, but something
Yeah,
was, we did
seriously.
not have good juju for us.
No, it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like I don't know, seeing some like crazy natural phenomenon like lightning striking somewhere or something. You almost have to be like,
Yeah.
wow, that's pretty cool that I got to see it. Like, what are the odds that that happens, you know?
That's one way to think about it, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, I was on the sideline though, like, hanging out, so it's a little easier for me to have that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we got through it. It was still, it was epic in its own way and very memorable, I think, for everyone. But I do kind of want to touch on one last bigger topic, and that is qualifying for the national team. So you mentioned previously, like you are in a position now where you did not requalify after last year. And I'm curious if you can take us through, what the criteria is or was specifically for your age category, because it changes based on the year you're born, and then where you kind of fell in that criteria. And so, how did you end up falling just outside of that criteria?
Yeah, honestly, I don't totally know. It's lucky that a lot of my buddies on the team were like pretty dialed on all that stuff because they would be like, "You really should try to do this race." You like Zandon and like Jack Yoggers were like this. I'd be like, "No, dude, I just did the math. You really should try and do this race." So I kind of was like trusting those guys a little bit.
Yeah,
And I knew that one thing. I knew that if I had like three top 30s or something, then I think I would have made it, which I had one. So, and then there's some like point thing like for number like world rank, which I can't remember. It maybe had to be like I can't actually remember for my age. I haven't looked at it that closely.
yeah,
Um, God, which is kind of embarrassing now that I say it out loud. But like, I really trusted that. I looked at it a couple times. I knew there was like a subjective result one, and I knew that my points were not probably going to be good enough. So that was kind of my only way to do it. And
yeah,
I was a little bit stressed because I didn't go to spring series. And I was kind of like, dude, what if the stars aligned? There could have been like the perfect point race in spring series or whatever. But thankfully, yeah, that didn't happen. And yeah, anyways, so I fell. I don't even know if it was just outside. I was pretty comfortably outside, I think.
okay,
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I think about it like I had, I'm so lucky that I had so many years where I honestly had pretty good opportunities and definitely, I mean, I was on, I got on when I was like 19 or something like that, and this is my first year off, so like
yeah.
I definitely reaped plenty of benefits. Well, honestly, providing not that much like value to the organization. So it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's motivation to get back on for sure, but I can't be too bummed about it.
You definitely added value to the organization. I remember seeing you in a Kappa photo shoot. Like
Oh my God,
that's
that's
level.
right. Actually, they should freaking name me again for making me do that thing. That's right. That was a whole thing. JC was supposed to do that, and then he hurt his ankle playing basketball, and they were like, "Hey man," because I was going to school in Utah all the time. They're like, "Yeah, would you mind going doing this?" Because JC was supposed to do it, and yeah, whatever. I don't. It's just not my thing, but it was a cool experience or whatever.
Definitely added value though. You gave back. Um, okay,
Yeah.
so I guess I'm curious then, like, how do you feel like or do you feel like your position has changed going into this season now that you don't necessarily have that same national team support?
I mean, financially, it definitely has, for sure. Which, yeah, I guess we still got to hash out my appearance fee for this one. For this, I was thinking somewhere in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, but
Let me just cover
no,
your period one expenses.
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. In terms of like, identity or whatever, uh, not not that much. Like, yeah, I'm lucky that there wasn't really anyone in my life that was like their love felt contingent on my national team status, which is nice. But
Yeah,
yeah, the other thing that's cool too is like Alaska is a pretty special place that like, I don't know, like they care about yeah, being on the US ski team and stuff, but like that's such a small piece of the perception that the community has about people and like people just like really like supporting people because they've seen people grow up and I
yeah,
don't know. I guess I feel like yeah, my point is like it doesn't really feel like it's changed anything for me at home. Like no one
mm,
honestly, I think almost no one even knows. Like no one was like coming up to me at home and it's like, dude, I'm so sorry you didn't get renamed to the team. Like they're
yeah,
just like, hey, you going for another season or whatever? And I'm just like,
yeah,
yeah. So I don't know. It definitely is. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that has really changed, which is of course a big thing, is the funding going away. Is
yeah.
definitely a bummer for sure. As yeah, you're well aware of. It's not super easy to figure out that, but yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a plan in place to prepare for those invoices that are coming from Chris Grover every month?
Like no, no is the answer. But I am like making some progress, which is which is cool. I'm really lucky that like I get to work with some like organizations here that like do some stuff with like kids in the community and stuff. So I get to be out there and like a little more visible and like add stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that'll help me maybe like yeah, I don't know, track some people down, some businesses or whatever who are willing to help. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess like credit card fraud maybe is my other alternative. So
Okay. Well, maybe we can't talk about that on this podcast, but
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the yeah, that's the bonus
yeah,
content.
exactly. The bloopers.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
well, I will just go as far to say that, in my experience, being in the position of racing a lot of World Cups without national team funding, the National Nordic Foundation, go NNF, they have done an outstanding job of supporting individuals in my position and individuals like the position you'll be in this year. And so, one, I'll just say, like, you're not alone, and there will be people who will support you. And also, if there's any listeners out there who are interested in ways that they can support individuals like myself or Luke, then please donate to NNF, because it really is like an outstanding organization that really helps grow the sport at all levels, both on like, from World Cup down to very young junior skiing. It's supporting athletes at all those levels. So,
Yeah,
um,
no, that's definitely I should have said that earlier. That's definitely yeah, this is a pretty insane thing that up until pretty recently people in our position did not have the um yeah, access to at all. So definitely Draft 25 going in, all that stuff. All that,
we'll
this is
circle
my
back in November.
yeah, totally, totally, yeah. My girlfriend's mom is on the board, so I gotta really pump up NNF.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Well, Luke, thank you so much for sharing all of these things. Before I actually let you go, I have some rapid fire questions for you, and some of them are a little silly and some of them are strange, but I've just put together, well, actually, in full honesty, I even had my friend AI help me come up with some of these
Oh yeah,
questions. So,
yeah. There's
um,
no
we
shame.
are gonna, yeah, walk through some of these questions, and you can choose to dive into them if you want, or just give one word answers, whatever you
Okay.
feel ready. Okay, so getting into it. Living in Alaska, how often do you run into moose during a training session?
Um, I'd say at least once a week, probably
Once a week? Oh, wow. Okay. What's the
on
craziest moose
average.
story you have?
I don't have that many crazy ones, but my girlfriend Novi has been actually like attacked by moose
Oh,
multiple
God.
times. Her first summer up here, she was. She could probably hear me through the room telling the story right now. This probably hates me for this, but she was roller skiing and this. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember what happened. She was on the bike path and I guess like this moose just came out of nowhere and just like started charging her, which is really weird. Like it seems like it was kind of unprovoked, I think. So she like dove into the bushes and like her face got all like scraped up and she thought she got a
Oh, God.
concussion because it is like yeah, she like messed her. She got a big like
Oh, God.
laceration on her eye from it, and what was weird, they like, kept coming, I think, or something like that. And then finally, these other people that were coming to the other side of the trail like appeared, and then it turned around and like went after them instead, so she was able to get out. And
Oh, my
just
God.
she was like getting out of there, and like she was just hearing like people like yelling on the other side. She was like, "I just gotta get out of here," and it all ended up okay. Everyone was okay, but it was definitely a bit of an abnormal like moose encounter, I think. And then like not that long after that, she and I were like doing something together, and this moose kind of started coming at us or something, and I think I kind of like abandoned her or something. I can't remember, but yeah, definitely. I've been lucky to not have too many bad incidents, but she's definitely taken the brunt of all of them for us.
And she somehow has decided to come back to Alaska.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's not for the weather, so I don't know. I don't know why.
Not for the weather, not for the moose. Good thing it's
No.
for you. So,
Yeah, I hope so.
okay. Uh, last Alaskan question. If Alaska, this is an AI one. Okay, so if Alaska had an official training snack, what would it be?
Hmm. I guess. I mean, like the answer that I feel like is like the answer that I'm is being prodded out of me is like I feel like I don't actually do that much, but this time of year, like we were running the other day, and the blueberries are pretty awesome. So you can stop and
Oh,
you can get a lot of. That's definitely not like something I do that often, but I feel like it is like an Alaskan thing, I guess. So yeah,
I thought you were
this
gonna
time of
say like
this,
moose jerky or something.
yeah, I think that those might not have a super high glycemic index, the smoked salmon or moose turkey.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Um, nice. Okay. On to kind of like World Cup races. What's the weirdest thing you've ever packed in your ski bag?
Okay, maybe not in my ski bag, but last year when I went over after nationals, I had two ski bags because I had so many. That's a bummer going back and forth in the World Cup so much. Is
Yeah.
like you have so many freaking skis whenever you do it because you don't know when you're coming back. And I had no wheels on them because like they don't like you to have wheels because they don't fold up that well. And my dad, it's like I don't know. This is so classic. He does stuff like this all the time. I was like explaining this problem to him, so he's like, okay. And he goes into our garage and he found like a skateboard or a longboard that I had used when I was little, saws it in half, sands the sides, drills these like slots in it, and then uses these straps to create this um like pull like wheelie like system like that basically gave it wheels for just the bottom that you could wrap around the entire thing so it like
Oh my God.
was like stable. And if you ever do that the trip to like Central Europe, you end up taking like 1,000 trains and you're walking super far in these train stations, and I just would not have been able to do it like with my suitcase,
Oh,
backpack, and two ski bags. So because
yeah.
of his ingenious engineering, it wasn't in my bag, but it was outside my, or I guess it was in my bag when I was flying. And then I was going through like I can't even remember some Munich or something, and I didn't remember the wheels like lit up, like they were like light up wheels. So I was just going through this airport, and the wheels were like super bright with this like janky skateboard, thing. And then I freaking left it in a rental van in Europe, and
No
I
way.
know, I know, I had to tell him, and it was like he was so sweet. He like stayed up like super late the night before I left to do it. I
Oh,
totally, I know.
that's such a great father little gift.
Totally. It's such
That
such a classic dad thing to do for sure.
Wait, is there the other side of the longboard? Can you like
Yep.
switch it
Yeah.
and use
Well,
it?
I think
Oh,
he made the other side. I think he made for Novi, which I don't know if she even knows that.
okay.
So I might need to commandeer it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's a good
Yeah.
story. Okay. So speaking of traveling through train stations, gas stations, what's your favorite European mid-travel day snack or guilty pleasure that you might indulge in?
Mm. Oh man, this isn't that good of an answer, but I feel like on a lot of those days, I would like challenge myself for some reason on all of our like travel days like that we were driving. I would be like, wait, I'm gonna go like fully vegan on this day for whatever reason. I guess was trying to offset the yeah, otherwise ridiculous carbon footprint that I was having that day. And I got super into just pita and hummus. I would just
Oh,
crush it
nice.
in the van. Yeah. So I was like,
Pretty
yeah,
good.
it's kind of filling and yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of a lame. I guess the other fun answer is like the open face shrimp sandwiches that every single European airport seems to have like 1,000 of. And I'm like, who the hell is buying these? They look so foul. Like those things have been sitting there for I don't even know how long. And they're always open faced. They're always like in a croissant, and there's like 1,000 little shrimp on them, and sometimes like boiled eggs or something. And then I guess I'm always like, who buys this? And then Matt Wickholm is in line behind me, and he buys like three of them. So
Wait, isn't Matt allergic to shrimp?
he better not be, because that he if he is he's rolling the dice a lot.
I think he is like low-key allergic, but I think he does actually roll the dice with it. And he's like, yeah, but I just like love it so much that I'll just live with the
Yeah,
repercussions.
that's definitely a crazy. Yeah, that's not a risk I'd be taking, but whatever, to each their own.
Yeah, there are some interesting snacks along those during those travel days where I'm like, yeah, I don't think you can pay me to eat that, but I
No,
guess Matt
totally.
does. So
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
he's their dream clientele.
Yeah. Okay, who's the teammate you would least want to roommate with for a month if you're
Oh
at a training
wow.
camp or something?
Least want to. Okay. Well, this is an I I would at least want to. I mean, there's really no one, like there's no one that I would
Yeah.
actually like be dreading
Yeah.
rooming with. I guess I would need to pick someone who. It's nice to have someone because I'm not super organized, so you can't really have two people like that, And I feel like I guess Ben is the other one that's maybe a lot like that. So I
Yeah.
feel like I would obviously love to be with him for a month because it would be so fun, but we would probably miss half of our races or whatever and like end up with like, wearing each other's underwear by like the third day or something because it would just be like one giant pile in the middle of the room. So so probably and I think he would probably say the same thing. I think
Yeah.
our dream for he and I, it's like the perfect thing is like he and I are both with someone organized, and then we get to chill a lot outside, but we're not like
Yeah.
dragging each other down by
Yeah.
being in the same room with our horrible habits.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, if you had to trade skis with a European rival for one race, who would it be?
I
Yeah,
mean,
let's maybe not say Claybo,
yeah, I was gonna say it
just
seems
because
like
that's
pretty
too
much
easy.
kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, I mean, it it's hard to not want to just like say, I don't know, Martin Lostrom Dingett, like roughly my
Yeah, okay,
size,
that's fair.
has insane skis.
Yeah.
But I will say there was a little while where I was pretty curious about the Peltonen world because I was getting
Oh,
beaten by
wow.
Cyril Fonder. She's
Yeah.
like a good friend on Peltonens a lot. So maybe out of curiosity, I would have wanted to try those. But I guess he ended up getting off that train, so it couldn't have been that
Okay.
good.
Okay. Okay. Um, so maybe mix there. Maybe Cyril, maybe
Cyril's like the
any
fun
of the
answer,
Norwegians.
but the like if I actually had to, I would pick any of the Norwegian men.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, who tells the worst jokes on the US ski team, but you still laugh at them anyway?
I mean, I don't know, all of them. Like, I feel like everybody. I don't think that there's anybody who's like exempt from that from that category. I mean, I think there's definitely like I think everyone thinks Zach is funny, but
Yeah.
there is like I think that he has a flavor of humor that is like uniquely hardwired for my brain in some way. So it's not that like other people don't think it's funny, but I think like I am definitely far disproportionate in terms of how funny I think he is. Like if everyone else is laughing at like a 3 out of 10 of what he says, I'll be like, almost like peeing my pants. And he can consistently do it for like so long. Like he never gets old. So that yeah, it's I think I gotta probably go with him, I guess.
I feel like sometimes Zach says things where you think he's kidding, but he's actually not, and so you laugh, and then you're like he's like, what?
Yeah. Oh, I know. No, he himself is incredible. This is
Yeah.
actually I gotta do a plug for his vlog. If anyone hasn't been
Oh yeah.
watching that, they need to be watching that because it's so funny.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
if you know Zach, it's like even funnier because he's just like
Yeah.
most people like the camera turns on, they like maybe change a little bit. He's just exactly the same.
That's good. Okay. If you had to survive a week on only European hotel breakfast buffets, what's the one item you would hoard first?
I feel like croissants usually if you're in Central Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it depends a little bit where you are. I think in Central Europe, definitely like if you get some of those good croissants, like yeah, it's kind of problematic
Yeah.
how easy it is to eat those. And I feel like I actually do end up hoarding them usually.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, honestly, like in Scandinavia, I feel like it's easy to want to say waffles,
Mm.
but I kind of think that maybe they do like the soft boiled eggs. That maybe is
Oh,
their best.
yeah. That's a good
Or I
call.
guess like I guess coffee actually is probably the right answer. But
Just coffee for the
well,
whole
okay, no,
week.
if it's all you can have, then I guess probably not. Yeah, well, I guess if I have to create like a macronutrient balanced meal, that's a different conversation.
No, I would agree with that. I feel like the croissants, though, I'm very particular about my croissants. Like, it has to be like a really good croissant for me to enjoy it. But I will say that, well, and there are a lot of hotels where it's like, oh, this actually isn't that great of a croissant.
There's some bad ones.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But I will say, I feel like across the board, European bread, no matter what, is like really good. And
Yeah,
so
totally.
I just like will take rolls and bread and just be so happy.
Yeah, when they got the loaf that has the napkin on it, and then you go cut it
Yeah.
yourself, that's how you know it's gonna be good.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, last question. If ski racing suddenly became a team sport with costumes, what would you wear?
Okay, I don't understand like, is the costume functional?
It's functional. So you have to like race fast with the costume on, but you're also like rated by how good your costume is. So it has to be a really good costume, but it has to be fast too.
So what is it like good if it's like funnier?
Maybe. Every race maybe has a different judge.
Hmm. I mean, it's hard to not say like I would just dress as a speed skater or something, because that'd obviously be insanely functional. But I don't know. I think minions are pretty funny.
Oh, there we go.
The
Nice.
the Despicable Me guys. So
Yeah.
maybe
You
some
could have
kind
the
of a
minion
minion.
goggles too.
Yeah, those would be functional for sure if they were like
Yeah.
photochromic and
Hmm.
polarized and stuff. Then you'd be loving like maybe Oakley Snow Prism minion mono goggle because some of them only
Perfect.
have one eye. Yeah, that's the answer, I guess.
All right. There we go. All right. Well, maybe we will be seeing that sometime soon on the World Cup by yours truly. Luke, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I really appreciate your time,
Yeah, of
and I
course. Thanks
will
for having me.
see you on the ski world sometime soon.
Yeah, October. Seeing everyone in Park City.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Extra Blue, and thank you, Luke, for joining me. It was really fun to catch up with Luke about his summer training and also get a little bit vulnerable about some of those tough moments in the season. Luke has always done an outstanding job at keeping it real and keeping it fun. If something goes well for Luke, he's the first one to crack a joke about it. If something doesn't go well, he's even more witty and ready to laugh along with the triumphs and the errors. If you want to follow along with Luke's journey this winter, you can find him on Instagram at Luke Jager Yo. And while you're on your phone, head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give this podcast a rating and review. It really helps me grow the podcast and also hear your feedback. What are you liking about the podcast? What do you want to hear more of on the podcast? As we get closer to winter, which guests are you most excited to hear from? And remember, you can now watch these episodes over on the Gear West YouTube channel. Thank you, Gear West, for the support of this podcast. And thank you all for listening.